Welcome back to another action-packed episode of the Daily Podcast of Kung Fu as myself, Justin Raymer, traverses the worlds of Marvel's most prolific martial artist and Iron Fist Shang-Chi and the White Tiger. If you want to keep up with the podcast, you can do so over on social media platforms, Twitter, X, Instagram, and Threads. If you want to keep up with myself, Justin Raymer, and my upcoming comic book, The California Cannibal #1, you can follow me over on Twitter, X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Now today, we are beginning the journey of Lin Lie, the current Iron Fist. We know that he and Pei, the little Iron Fist, tiny Iron Fist, we don't really have a name for Pei yet, and the undead Iron Fist or Ghost Fist, Danny Rand, are all showing up here and coming together with other Marvel characters in Deadly Hands of Kun-Lun, so I figured I would start the journey of Lin Lie to become Iron Fist, because there's not a whole lot to it, and I should have enough time to do it before the issue gets here in mid-February, because we're here in the, second week of January, and I didn't think I was going to get this episode out. I didn't think I was going to have enough time to record it. Kind of glad that I waited, because we do have some interesting tidbits for Deadly Hands of Kun-Lun #1 that were released here on the 14th. We got some concept art, obviously. Lin Fong is back. He's got some awesome armor, which was pointed out was very Shao Kahnish. His helmet that he wears is the symbol of Chi Yu, which I think is very awesome. We have some concept art of what is called New Tiger's Faithful Daughter, which these are all designed by Paco Medina, who's drawing the book. And she kind of looks like Malice when Sue Storm kind of went evil for the Fantastic Four. She's got her whip, which looks like it's got some razors on the end. She's got some Freddy Krueger claws. She's in some bondage, like she's a Cenobite from Hellraiser. And with this, we also got the reveal of some concept art for the Kun-Lun Dark Army, or the War Fist, as we see that they're called, with the solicitations for issue 3 in the cover that was revealed, which all have the Iron Fist logo upside down on their chest. Kind of strange. They're all dressed in red and black on the cover as they fight Karnak, Elektra Daredevil, and Iron Fist Lin Lie, which Tiger's Faithful Daughter is also in the red and black, which is also Lin Fong's armor, which seems to be the colors of Chi Yu, which I really think is great. I really like what we're seeing with all of this. We also got some interior pages, which we see Lin's puzzle box show back up. Like, it brings a lot of these characters together. We see that Lin seems like he's quickly going to team up with White Tiger and Elektra. We see him and Pei arguing with the little puzzle box we see from the first issue of Swordmaster. Pretty exciting stuff. With the red that all of the, I will just say bad guys are wearing, from the Deadly Hands of Kun-Lun logo, the branding, the symbol of Shao-Lao the Undying that the Iron Fist always has, is red itself. So I'm wondering if that's got some deeper meaning than what everybody's thinking, because like I said, all the armor is red that we're seeing with all these concept arts of the villains. And now that we have the War Fist, which seem to be like evil versions of Iron Fist, and we know there's 66 Iron Fist, there could be 66 War Fists just on this page. And then with Tiger's Faithful Daughter and Fong's armor, I shouldn't even say Fong's armor, he's got nothing to do with this, but just looking at Tiger's Faithful Daughter and the War Fist makes me wonder if we're going to get other corrupted versions of the immortal weapons. That seems to be a trend there, and I think that would be cool, because some of us are hoping that maybe Ava Ayala White Tiger would become like Tiger's new beautiful daughter. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm gathering. I'm going to guess just by looking at this is, yeah, we might be getting some corrupted versions of the immortal weapons out of this. But let's go ahead and start diving into the story. I'm going to cover the first 4 issues of Swordmaster, or originally known as the Warriors of Three Sovereigns over in China, which was originally released as a digital manhwa. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, which is basically the Chinese version of manga over there, or American comics. And its release date was May 9th of 2018, which was the first version of the volume, because in manga we get volumes, we really don't get these issues, and you get big chunks of everything. And this was not translated until English until after Marvel's World of Realms, so we were introduced to Lin then, and then all this was translated to English right afterwards. And then we got the origin of Lin Lie, which we know is still continuing to play out slowly through Marvel continuity, and hopefully ends here with Deadly Hands of Kun-Lun, which is why I'm taking you on this journey now. So the creators for this entire story is Shujo as your writer. Also, Greg Pak gets credited because I'm sure that he did a lot of the writing and probably tightened it up for Marvel standards when it was translated to English. Doing all your art, pencils, inks, and colors is Gunji. He also does the covers. Your letters go to Travis Latham. You probably know who that is now with all the modern books that I've covered. Your editors are Mark Panacea, Tom Groneman, and Lindsay Kohik. Now, the first cover for the first issue of Swordmaster, titled Sword in the Tomb, is the cover for the Warriors of Three Sovereigns, and obviously being in a volume, all the other issues are just crammed inside. You don't have covers, but Gunji did do covers for the rest of them, and they all kind of give you a pretty good idea of what is in each issue. Now, what's interesting is the chapters are named different from English to from Chinese. So the English title for issue 2 is Boxes Within Boxes, which is better than the Chinese version of Home Murder. The third issue is The Ancient War, which fits a lot better than Am I Dead? Issue 4, both titles are Artifacts. One Chinese is Artifact and The Artifacts. So, English titles for the win there, but that's just kind of how titles for manga and whatnot just go in Asian culture. They're not as, I don't want to say detail-oriented, but they're not so much on the nose. They're more revolved around the feelings, usually, of the character and what they have going on than what is exactly going on with the plot of the story. So, with that being said, we'll go ahead and move on to that. After nightmares about battling a massive demon with a mysterious sword from his dad, Lin Lie needs answers. Luckily for him, his friend Cheng has some answers for him due to his missing father, but none for his brother. Taking the information, Lie tracks down some grave robbers, and they tell him about his father disappearing in a crazy red fog at the Valley of 1,000 Tombs. They warn him not to go there, but Lie ignores them. Once he returns home to pack his bags, a package arrives from his dad with a strange delivery driver. Despite realizing there's something very wrong with man, Lie opens the package and finds a strange puzzle box inside. As he opens it to find a red orb, the driver turns into a demon and attacks. Accidentally discovering the wood from the puzzle harms the fiend, Lie tries to defend himself, but it doesn't work. Being smashed through the door to his room, Lie cuts himself on the mysterious sword. This causes the blade to fly around on its own and attack the demon. Unsure if he's controlling the weapon while the fiend is trying to kill him, Lie finds himself in a bad situation. Just as the demon almost gets to him, a young girl leaps through his window and attacks. Using the sword, she easily dispatches the monster and realizes it's why there are so many more in the city. Confused to why a coward like Lie would have the sword of Fu Shi, a divine weapon of the Three Sovereigns, she impales him with it. He then finds himself on a battlefield covered in corpses. In the distance, Chi Yu, the demon of his nightmares, the god of war, slaughters armies by the thousands. Running to a nearby temple where the armies are based, Lie witnesses the 3 chiefs of the armies be granted divine weapons. One of them is the sword of Fu Shi. As the chiefs begin to charge into the hordes of Chi Yu, Lie wakes up. He freaks out over being stabbed, but the girl tells him the sword could never hurt him. Being the descendant of Fu Shi, it rightfully belongs to him. She introduces herself as Ji Shuang, the descendant of Nu Hua, one of the sovereigns. With the descendant of Sheng Nog, they are to keep the 3 parts of Chi Yu separate so he does not return. She then tells him a year ago, someone freed the skull of Chi Yu and they have since been hunting down demons. The sword of Fu Shi was the key to that prison and they had been looking for it. Lie asks if he can just put the sword back in place, but Ji explains it's too late, but not to worry, that they have the upper hand. As she tosses the red orb into her other hand, she tells Lie that it contains the soul of Chi Yu. So, let's kind of just dive into our characters based on what we have learned. Because I really like the story. There's not a whole lot that I remember of this whole thing. It's been a long time since I've read it. But yeah, I really liked what we had got here by what I can remember. So all of this is based on the Chinese mythology of the 3 sovereigns and the 5 emperors. It's stuff that I've read here in the last couple of years, just trying to understand it and learn about it. Because they're really kind of tying this into the Iron Fist lore. And then if we take what we know of the 10 Rings lore and we tie all this together, there's like a really rich world that Marvel could use for a good amount of characters, which are, all the Iron Fist, Shang-Chi. I know we're bringing in White Tiger to the deadly hands of Kun-Lun because, we know that the Tiger amulets of power are tied to Kun-Lun. There's Tiger's beautiful daughter, which I mentioned earlier, which she could easily become because that character died back in Heart of the Dragon from Larry Hama years ago, maybe like 5 years ago at this time. So there's like a big, rich world that they could build and really let people sink their teeth into because it's not a lot that is explored in Marvel. So that makes me very excited for what we're getting, but I'm also afraid that Marvel will drop the ball on this because it's not big mainstream characters, and we'll get less and less of it as we already do with both anything Iron Fist or Shang-Chi. So let's dive into these characters, and they're all typical Asian manga or manhwa, I should say, since we're talking about Chinese literature. They're all those basic type of teen heroes that we get over there, like Lee. There's something unusual about him that ties to what's going on. He's above average somewhere, which seems like he's very smart based on all the books we see in his bedroom. And he seems like he's very resourceful. And he has that parent missing in his life. That is kind of a thing in Asian culture when it comes to stuff like this. And I don't really understand it. I've not really looked into why, but I like, even in Godzilla movies, like, I go to Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, and I can't remember the characters' names, but the scientists that helped build Mechagodzilla, like his daughter, her mom died because she was going to give birth to a child, and the dad wanted to save her, but he could only save one, and then they wound up, losing her, and the baby was born. So it's something very common. I don't understand it, but that's just kind of the thing over there, and that's fine. The one thing I do remember noticing when I first opened this book, and we see Swordmaster, and he's on the cover, is he has a look that's very akin to Strider Hiryu from Japanese pop culture, probably most known in the States for Marvel vs. Capcom. He's pretty freaking awesome with his little mechanical panther that he's got. And there's some similarities. They both have this very long flowing scarf that hangs from their neck, except for Strider wears his around his face, kind of like a ninja mask, and Lin Lie does not. They both carry a sword. They both have a blue shirt on, even though Strider usually is sleeveless. Lin Lie seems like his is all the way on. So there's some very striking similarities that I can remember thinking like, wow, he looks like Strider. Which I like that because I like playing as Strider Hiryu in the Marvel vs. Capcom games. The next character we meet is Ching. We don't see any more of him through these 4 issues, just here in the opening. I find him very more fascinating than Lee. He's very roguish from a RPG fantasy standpoint. Like, he's just sitting there, check it out, I learned to pick locks. If you won't give your old buddy Ching the key, he'll just make one himself. So, like, I like that he just learns to pick locks on his own, and then we find out that he's the one that tracks down the guys that Lin's father, who's apparently an archaeologist, hired to help him dig up this tomb. He says, I tracked down the grave robbers we heard about, the ones who were talking about your dad. How did you? Oh, you know me, picking locks, making things happen. So he's already far more interesting to me than Lin Lie in this book, and these couple pages right here where he's introduced, it's all we get of him in the first 4 issues. I mean, and he's got a really kick-ass look to him. Like, he looks like he's totally awesome. You may think that he likes Crazy Town, just kind of this hairstyle and some of his dress, but I really like the character. And then we get Ji Shuang Shuang. She's the badass standoffish chick that you get in manga. And of course, you would think that she's going to fall at some point for this goofy and terrified kid that she just met, who's going to be the big badass hero at the end of this. Like, it's typical tropes for this type of story. She's both tech and magic based, which I love, because the tech versus magic thing, science versus magic, is a big Marvel Comics thing, and I love that she's got both of them. We see her using drones. We see her using, looks like, magical stepping disc to jump from building to building to get around. She's a badass with the sword of Fushi, because she slices this demon up no problem. So you can tell, like, she has been trained her entire life to do what she is doing now. And she's very mysterious. We don't learn much about her except for her being one of the descendants of the Sovereign. We don't know who she's working for. We just know there's somebody talking to her in her headset. So I already like this character more than I like Lee at this point. The opening page is so badass to the first issue, first volume of the manhwa, is we get Chi-Yu in all his kaiju-sized demonic fury, just tearing apart armies, almost as if he's bursting out of the ground, and they're trying their best. Very Naruto-like, fighting something way bigger than you, using grappling hooks and rope to try to hold it down. That's kind of what it reminds me of. But man, just an opening killer page. Like, his armor is made out of bone. He looks like this giant demonic bull. Like, he is a badass. And then we get these demons that kind of look like Babu from D&D to me, like these bony looking demons. And I like to think that this demon delivered the package to Lee just because he knew that he could open the puzzle box. Because we find out, like, how clever Lee is, that he loves doing these puzzle boxes. And I like to think that this demon just had the box, couldn't open it, so he forced the delivery guy to package it up so he didn't have to touch it, right? Then possessed the delivery guy, because we know the puzzle box, this red puzzle box, hurts the demon, just to bring it to Lee so he could open it. Because we do learn that Lee's dad has been missing for about a year now, according to G. So I like to think that the demon had the box, wanted Chi-Yu's soul, and just took it to Lee just so he'd open it. Because some of his dialogue kind of tells me that. He says, "Good job, boy, now hand it over." And he's like, "Just give it to me, you stupid human," as he's attacking. I could see his voice being very, like, kind of Evil Ash attitude in a way. So yeah, I like to think that the demon had the package delivered just so Lee could open it for him. And now, it does kind of throw you off guard that the orb is Chi-Yu's spirit, because we're learning from G about all the three tombs and how they all have a piece of Chi-Yu. I'm assuming that, if I'm right, that all of the divine weapons are keys that keep these prisons locked. But now they just have the soul. That kind of took me off guard at the end of issue 4, or volume 4, which is kind of strange, because how, or maybe the demons had it? I don't know. We really don't understand how the orb came to be put in the box, or even how the demon had it in a package. But you would think that'd be something that would be really safeguarded by more than just weapons used as keys in tombs. So, or maybe that the demon stole the package from whoever G works with. It's unsure in these first 4 issues. Now, I do like how being impaled by the sword of Fushi takes Lee back on a time warp. I thought that was really cool. Because the imagery here is pretty awesome. So G impales Lee with the sword. It's all the green energy from the sword around him, because the sword looks like it's made of jade, and it's got all these they're kind of like coordinates, or it looks like they have like star charts on them, the way that they're pointed out, like constellations. And like all this green energy bursts between both of them. We see the red mist, I guess, of Chi-Yu, because we kind of seen that from the grave. And then the next page, we see her, and she has like Chi-Yu behind her, and the page is pretty badass. And it's just green, I'm assuming because of the sword. And the next page, like, we get these 3 panels, and it's Lee's eye. Then it focuses closer to the eye, and then it's almost like the eye is an explosion, or like like a gateway, and then the eye is almost like a gateway to the battlefield. And then we see Lee waking up. In those 3 pages, man, the artwork and the transition to the real world to the time warp of the past is really freaking awesome. I really love it. Very, very great energy by Gunji here for this story. Now, we do get to see the Sovereigns get the weapons and kind of the Emperor asking for them, but we don't get to see the battle against Chi, which is cool, because you don't want to know how they defeat him, because eventually when Lee and Ji and whoever the third Sovereign would be, which I'm sure is Ching, like, we want to see them fight Chi Yu, and we want to see how they defeat him, because it's probably in the same manner. So it's cool that was saved instead of revealing it here like midway through the entire series. So the questions we are left with here is, who's the third Sovereign? I do believe it's Ching, if I'm right. Where are the other tombs? Who does Ji work for? And where is Professor Lee and his other son? So there are questions that are left here in the first 4 issues. I do believe the first volume is the first 6 issues, but this is a 12-issue story by Marvel, so I'm just going to do it in chunks of 4, because it's been a long time since I've done books in chunks, but these all kind of flow together. And the stories are wrapped up pretty nicely within so many issues, so it doesn't seem like I'm going to go long for them, and it seems like a normal episode. So I'll continue to do that. So we'll have 2 more volumes of Swordmaster or Warriors of the Sovereign 3 before we dive into Volume 6 of Iron Fist. But that'll wrap up this episode of the Deadly Podcast of Kung Fu. If you want to keep up the podcast, please do so on social media platforms, Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. If you like my music, check out Rushing Tiger by Kuro over on SoundCloud and YouTube. I'm still slowly putting episodes up on YouTube. I'm not feeling it. For one, it kind of takes a little bit more time out of my day. Like there's a reason when me and my friends started podcasting and started doing the Villains Demand, which I'm about the only person that does any of it anymore, but it's more for this podcast and my RPG podcast with my friends. Like, I remember why I do not like doing YouTube. So, but I'll keep it up just to see if people are going to listen. I mean, if things do tend to have listens there, but I just don't like dealing with YouTube. And I'm also doing my son's YouTube channel, Bubba's Crazy Dinos. He wants to do YouTube and review all of his dinosaur and Godzilla toys because he watches people do it, and I'm like, okay, Bubba. My son Draven, I love dinosaurs. I love Godzilla. That's what I grew up on. That's what he's growing up on by his own choice. Dad had no influence, I swear. But now he gets to see all the stuff I have, and he's excited. And we're having fun doing toy reviews. So, you can go support my kid on YouTube, because he is having a blast. But most importantly, guys, this year, it's not too late. If you don't use a LCS to buy your comics, do so. LCS is what keeps the comic book business going. I know people shop online, but go support an LCS. Keep reading comics, guys.